In the grim darkness of the far future, where every fragment of knowledge is tightly controlled and buried beneath layers of secrecy, there exists no greater enigma than the creation of the Adeptus Astartes. These warriors, the mighty Space Marines, stand as the Imperium's most revered champions, their deeds echoing through countless millennia of war and strife. They are the protectors of humanity, the ultimate symbol of loyalty to the Emperor, and the wrath of the Imperium unleashed upon its enemies. Yet behind the glory and might of the Astartes lies a tapestry woven with threads of darkness, ambition, and sacrifice. The creation of the Astartes did not emerge from a moment of inspiration, nor was it a simple act of divine providence. Instead, it was a process marked by desperation, experimentation, and the unyielding will of an emperor who sought to reshape the fate of humanity at any cost. To understand the truths buried beneath their genesis, one must first confront the realities of a galaxy plunged into chaos. A time when the Emperor's dream of unity stood on the precipice of annihilation, and the tools to achieve salvation were as perilous as the threats they sought to overcome. The foundations of the Astartes creation are intertwined with ancient histories and forbidden sciences. Their origins reach back into an age when the Emperor worked tirelessly in secrecy, crafting the genetic blueprints that would define their existence. The enigmatic nature of this process, shrouded in the mists of forgotten eras, holds both triumphs and tragedies that shaped not only the Space Marines themselves, but also the very essence of the Imperium they serve. This story is not merely one of science and warfare, but of moral compromise, ethical ambiguity, and the cost of power. The path to creating these superhuman warriors was paved with decisions that challenged the boundaries of humanity's understanding, and it left scars upon the galaxy that persist to this day. Each chapter in this saga reveals not only the brilliance of the Emperor's vision, but also the shadows that it cast over all who dared to follow it. In the coming exploration, we will delve deep into the origins of the Astartes, unearthing the secrets that have been hidden for centuries. From the architects of their creation to the conditions that demanded their existence, every aspect of this tale is steeped in a complexity that defies simple judgment. What sacrifices were deemed necessary to forge these warriors, and what truths remain hidden behind the grandeur of their deeds? The answers lie not in the light of understanding, but in the darkness that envelops their birth. As we peel back the layers of this mystery, prepare to confront the unsettling realities that lie at the heart of the Adeptus Astartes. For their creation is not merely a story of hope, but a mirror reflecting the darkest depths of humanity's ambitions and fears. With the stage set, let us journey into the shadows of history to uncover the truths behind the Astartes' genesis. The key players in this monumental tale await. At the heart of the Astartes' creation lies a diverse cast of key figures and factions, each playing a vital role in the process that brought these superhuman warriors into existence. These participants, with their distinct purposes and contributions, shaped the path of history in ways that echo through the millennia. Understanding their involvement reveals the intricate web of influence and intention surrounding the genesis of the Space Marines. In the end, the long-term impact of the Astartes' creation will depend on whether the Imperium chooses to confront the truths of their origins or continue burying them beneath layers of secrecy and myth. The choice between transparency and denial, reform and stagnation, will determine whether the Astartes remain a force for humanity's survival or a symbol of its self-destruction. These warriors, forged in darkness, have become the guardians of a fragile future, one that teeters on the edge of hope and despair, defined by the decisions yet to be made. Supporting the Emperor's efforts were his most trusted geneticists and bioengineers, figures whose names have been lost to time, but whose contributions were no less essential. These individuals, chosen for their brilliance and dedication, worked tirelessly in the laboratories and workshops where the first seeds of the Astartes were sown. Their expertise in manipulating genetic material and integrating advanced augmentations played a critical role in crafting the template that would define the future warriors of the Imperium. Another significant group involved in this endeavor was the Mechanicum of Mars. While their relationship with the Emperor was complex, they provided vital resources, technological expertise, and facilities that enabled the creation and production of the advanced equipment and enhancements necessary for the Astartes. The Mechanicum's forges produced the tools and weapons these warriors would wield, ensuring that their physical capabilities were matched by the most advanced war gear humanity could offer. Their cooperation was driven by a shared interest in advancing the boundaries of human achievement, though their motivations were not entirely aligned with the Emperor's. The role of the Terran auxiliaries and early human subjects cannot be overlooked. These individuals, often drawn from the desperate and downtrodden, served as the initial test subjects for the experimental procedures that would later become the basis for creating the Astartes. Their sacrifices, whether voluntary or coerced, provided the data and insights necessary to refine the process. While their names and stories remain obscured, their contribution to this pivotal chapter in human history is undeniable. Another critical player in this narrative was the Imperium's vast logistical network, which provided the materials and manpower required to support the Emperor's project. The construction of specialized facilities, the harvesting of rare and often dangerous resources, and the coordination of countless workers all contributed to the creation of the Astartes. Though these efforts were often unseen, they were no less vital to the realization of the Emperor's vision. Finally, the nascent Imperium itself served as both the context and the beneficiary of the Astartes' creation. The threats facing humanity demanded a response of unprecedented scale and efficacy, and the creation of these warriors was driven by the need to address those challenges. Every faction, from the Emperor's inner circle to the Mechanicum and beyond, played their part in ensuring that the Astartes would emerge as the ultimate defenders of humanity. The individuals and factions involved in the creation of the Astartes each carried their own motivations, expertise, and perspectives into the process. Together, they formed a mosaic of ambition and collaboration that set the stage for one of the most significant developments in human history. Their roles, though distinct, were interwoven into a greater whole, each contributing to the realization of a vision that would forever alter the fate of the galaxy. The creation of the Astartes was not a decision born of convenience or ambition, but of necessity. Humanity, once a galaxy-spanning civilization, found itself teetering on the brink of extinction. The long era of unity and technological advancement, known as the Dark Age of Technology, had collapsed, giving way to an age of fragmentation, ignorance, and unparalleled suffering. Isolated human worlds fell prey to barbarism, Xenos incursions, and the horrors of the warp. The dream of a unified human empire lay in tatters, and survival seemed uncertain at best. Central to this crisis was the Age of Strife, a catastrophic period that saw the galaxy descend into chaos. Warp storms rendered interstellar travel and communication almost impossible, cutting off countless human settlements from each other. Entire systems were lost to anarchy, while others fell victim to alien domination or were consumed by internal conflicts. Without a means to coordinate, humanity fractured into innumerable isolated groups, each struggling to survive in increasingly hostile environments. Amid this galactic turmoil, the rise of psychic phenomena introduced new and terrifying challenges. Uncontrolled psychic awakenings among human populations often led to disastrous consequences, from the corruption of entire worlds to catastrophic warp incursions. These events destabilized societies further, making the need for a unifying force more urgent than ever. A power capable of overcoming these threats, both external and internal, was required to safeguard humanity's survival. Adding to the desperation was the existential threat posed by Xenos species. The galaxy teemed with hostile alien races, many of which exploited humanity's weakness during the Age of Strife. Entire worlds were subjugated or eradicated, while humanity's once dominant position in the galaxy was reduced to a fragmented collection of beleaguered enclaves. These external enemies were relentless, their superior coordination and resources making them formidable adversaries. The decline of technological progress further compounded the crisis. The secrets of advanced machinery and bioengineering had been lost or corrupted over millennia, leaving humanity with dwindling resources and failing infrastructures. Knowledge that had once enabled the colonization of stars and the construction of wonders now existed only in fragments, jealously guarded by isolated factions or reduced to superstition. The dream of restoring humanity to its former glory required not just unity, but also the means to achieve it, and such means were increasingly scarce. Faced with this bleak reality, the Emperor recognized that the path forward required more than mere diplomacy or piecemeal solutions. Humanity needed a force capable of transcending the limitations of ordinary soldiers, one that could unify the galaxy under a single banner and protect it from both external threats and internal decay. These warriors would not only be physically superior, but also embody the ideals of loyalty, discipline, and unyielding resolve. The aim was not simply to create powerful fighters, but to forge instruments of unification and stability. These warriors needed to be adaptable to the vast array of challenges they would face, from combating hostile alien empires to bringing recalcitrant human populations back into compliance. They had to inspire awe and loyalty in allies while striking terror into the hearts of enemies. Such a monumental task demanded not only advanced genetic engineering, but also a singular vision of what these warriors were meant to achieve. The creation of the Astartes was thus shaped by the convergence of necessity and opportunity. It was the culmination of an urgent need to address the galaxy's immediate threats while laying the foundation for humanity's long-term survival. The sacrifices required to achieve this goal were immense, and the decisions made during this process would echo throughout history, raising questions that lingered long after the first warriors took to the battlefield. In this context, the project to create the Astartes was not merely a solution, but a gambit. It was a bold and unprecedented effort to reclaim a galaxy that had become unrecognizable, to restore humanity's dominion against seemingly insurmountable odds. The events that set this transformation into motion revealed the desperation and ambition that drove it, as well as the dark truths that would come to define its legacy. The timeline of events leading to the creation of the Astartes spans years of clandestine planning, calculated experimentation, and relentless pursuit of a singular goal: the survival and unification of humanity. These events, though scattered across different locations and involving numerous actors, formed a coherent progression toward the realization of the Emperor's vision. The initial phase began with the Emperor's covert efforts to recover and consolidate fragments of advanced knowledge lost during humanity's tumultuous past. Drawing on ancient archives, forgotten genetic theories, and remnants of arcane technologies, he laid the groundwork for a new kind of warrior. The earliest experiments involved crude prototypes, individuals subjected to genetic manipulation and augmentation. While these trials yielded mixed results, they provided critical data, shaping the methods and techniques that would later be perfected. The next stage involved the establishment of specialized facilities to refine these advancements. In secret laboratories and heavily fortified compounds, teams of bioengineers and geneticists worked under the Emperor's direct supervision. These facilities were scattered across both Terra and key allied systems, ensuring that progress continued even in the event of disruption. Each site focused on a specific aspect of the project, from genetic sequencing to the development of biological implants and their integration into human physiology. Parallel to these efforts, logistical preparations began to take shape. The creation of such a monumental force required immense resources, including rare biological materials, advanced surgical tools, and experimental cybernetic systems. To secure these assets, alliances were forged with entities such as the Mechanicum, whose industrial and technological capabilities proved invaluable. These partnerships allowed for the mass production of the war gear and augmentation technologies that would later define the Astartes. Once the basic genetic and physiological frameworks were established, the next phase focused on the physical and mental conditioning required to produce warriors of unparalleled capability. This stage involved rigorous testing, brutal training regimes, and the refinement of surgical procedures to implant enhancements. While the mortality rates during these trials were staggeringly high, the survivors emerged as proof of concept, their augmented bodies and heightened cognitive abilities showcasing the potential of the Emperor's designs. As progress continued, these early successes allowed for the standardization of the processes involved. Detailed protocols were developed to streamline the creation of future warriors, ensuring that they could be replicated on a larger scale. This standardization marked a shift in focus from individual experimentation to the mass production of a functional fighting force. It also enabled the Emperor to begin integrating these warriors into his broader strategy for unification. Field testing became the next critical step. The first viable warriors were deployed in controlled combat scenarios, both to evaluate their effectiveness and to identify areas for further improvement. These engagements ranged from skirmishes against hostile human factions to direct confrontations with alien threats. The feedback from these operations provided invaluable insights, leading to refinements in their equipment, tactics, and overall design. As these trials demonstrated the capabilities of the new warriors, recruitment and expansion efforts intensified. Plans were set in motion to identify suitable candidates from across the galaxy, prioritizing those with specific genetic markers and traits conducive to the augmentation process. Recruitment was often coupled with campaigns of conquest, as territories were reclaimed and their populations evaluated for potential inclusion in the Emperor's grand project. The timeline also included significant logistical coordination to prepare for the eventual large-scale deployment of these warriors. Entire supply chains were established to provide the necessary materials, while fleets were mobilized to transport them to distant battlefields. This infrastructure ensured that the Astartes would not only be created, but also sustained throughout the Emperor's campaign to unify humanity. Throughout these stages, secrecy remained paramount. The Emperor's ultimate vision was not yet fully revealed, and the true extent of his work was known only to a select few. This veil of secrecy allowed him to pursue his goals without interference, though it also ensured that many of the sacrifices made during this process went unrecorded and unacknowledged. By the time the Astartes were ready to be fully unleashed, the galaxy was poised for a dramatic transformation. Their creation was not merely the culmination of years of effort, but the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's history. The events that followed would forever alter the balance of power across the stars, as these warriors took their place at the forefront of the Emperor's vision. The defining moment in the creation of the Astartes was not an act of brilliance alone, but a decision forged in the crucible of desperation and ruthlessness. As humanity teetered on the brink of annihilation, the Emperor faced a choice that would forever shape the destiny of his species. This pivotal decision was not merely about engineering warriors. It was about redefining what humanity could endure, accept, and sacrifice to survive. The truth behind the Astartes lies in this moral crucible, where ambition clashed with the grim reality of a galaxy spiraling into chaos. The Emperor's vision demanded a force that could not only withstand the horrors of the galaxy, but also embody an unyielding, incorruptible will. The process required to achieve this, however, demanded experimentation on a scale that pushed the boundaries of ethics and morality. To create beings capable of surpassing the limitations of the human body and mind, the Emperor sanctioned methods that would horrify even the most hardened souls. The laboratories and genetic forges became arenas of suffering, where human subjects were reduced to components, stripped of identity, and rebuilt as tools for war. The truth, buried beneath layers of propaganda and myth, is that the foundation of the Astartes was built upon human sacrifice. Countless lives were deemed expendable in the pursuit of genetic perfection. Entire populations were combed through, their most promising candidates taken for experimentation. Those who failed the rigorous trials did not simply perish. Their remains were harvested, their genetic material recycled, their deaths rationalized as a necessary step toward humanity's salvation. For every successful warrior that emerged, hundreds, if not thousands, were lost. One of the darkest realities of this endeavor was the use of unwilling subjects. While some volunteered out of desperation or loyalty, many were forcibly conscripted into the program. They were stripped of autonomy, their bodies subjected to invasive surgeries, and their minds bent to serve the Emperor's will. Even those who survived the transformation often emerged as shadows of their former selves, their memories wiped and their identities subsumed by the persona of the perfect soldier. The cost of creating the Astartes was not merely physical, it was deeply psychological, as humanity itself was reshaped into a tool of war. The Emperor's decision to employ forbidden and arcane sciences also contributed to the shadows surrounding the Astartes. Drawing upon knowledge from eras long past, including elements considered taboo even by the Mechanicum, he pushed beyond the limits of what was understood and accepted. These techniques, while effective, carried inherent risks, and the full consequences of their use would not be known for centuries. The creation of the Astartes was as much an act of defiance against the natural order as it was a demonstration of the Emperor's genius. Yet, perhaps the most unsettling truth of all is that the Emperor's vision left no room for alternatives. His belief in the inevitability of his goal drove him to abandon any consideration of the morality or humanity of his methods. Those who questioned his approach were silenced, their concerns dismissed as obstacles to progress. The creation of the Astartes became a singular focus, an unrelenting march toward an ideal that left devastation in its wake. The very foundation of their existence, celebrated as a triumph, was built upon the suffering and exploitation of untold millions. This decision to prioritize the survival of humanity over the preservation of its moral compass marked a turning point not only for the Emperor, but for the galaxy itself. The Astartes were not simply warriors, they were a reflection of the compromises and sacrifices deemed necessary to achieve the Emperor's dream. They carried within them the weight of humanity's darkest truths, embodying both its potential and its capacity for cruelty. As the first of the Astartes marched onto the battlefield, their presence was heralded as a symbol of hope. But for those who knew the price paid for their creation, they were a grim reminder of the Emperor's willingness to cross any line in pursuit of his vision. The truth behind the Astartes lies not only in their power, but in the shadow of their origins, where the ideals of humanity were twisted into tools of survival and the cost of salvation was measured in lives. This was the moment when the Emperor's dream became a reality, but at a cost that would haunt the Imperium forever. The introduction of the Astartes into the galaxy was nothing short of transformative. Their arrival on the galactic stage altered the balance of power, reshaped conflicts, and imposed a new order on a universe defined by chaos. These warriors were more than soldiers. They were symbols of the Emperor's vision, wielding power and authority far beyond that of any force humanity had previously mustered. Their presence rippled outward, reshaping societies, influencing cultures, and imposing a new reality on a fractured galaxy. One of the most immediate impacts was their role in the Emperor's campaign to reunite humanity. As the spearhead of his efforts, the Astartes became the instruments of conquest and unification. Isolated human colonies, once embroiled in internecine conflicts or subjugated by alien oppressors, were swiftly brought back into the fold. Entire systems were liberated, and the fragmented remnants of humanity were welded together into the growing Imperium. The Astartes' speed, efficiency, and overwhelming might turn what could have been a centuries-long struggle into a focused and methodical campaign. Their victories not only reclaimed territory, but also inspired awe and fear among those who witnessed them. To the beleaguered human populations of the galaxy, the Astartes were seen as saviors, their seemingly godlike abilities embodying hope in an otherwise grim reality. For others, particularly those who resisted the Emperor's rule, they were harbingers of annihilation. The message they carried was unambiguous: compliance with the Emperor's vision or total eradication. This duality of liberation and destruction left an indelible mark on the galaxy's civilizations. The creation of the Astartes also set a precedent for the use of genetically augmented warriors in galactic conflicts. Their success demonstrated the effectiveness of such enhancements, prompting other factions, both human and alien, to pursue their own experiments in genetic manipulation and augmentation. This arms race in biological and technological innovation escalated the scale and stakes of warfare across the stars, introducing a new level of brutality and efficiency to galactic conflicts. The Imperium itself underwent significant changes as a result of the Astartes' existence. Their creation marked the centralization of power around the Emperor and his vision, with the Astartes serving as enforcers of his will. Their presence allowed the Imperium to establish a more rigid and hierarchical structure as they eliminated dissent and enforced compliance with imperial decrees. This shift solidified the Emperor's control, but also bred resentment among those who chafed under such strictures, sowing seeds of discontent that would later bear fruit in unexpected ways. Culturally, the Astartes influenced humanity's perception of strength, loyalty, and sacrifice. They became paragons of these ideals, inspiring countless myths, legends, and traditions. Their deeds were immortalized in songs and stories, and their image became a rallying point for imperial propaganda. Over time, this cultural impact deepened, as the Astartes were increasingly viewed not just as warriors, but as embodiments of humanity's highest aspirations and greatest sacrifices. Despite these immediate benefits, the creation of the Astartes also introduced long-term consequences that would reshape the galaxy in unforeseen ways. Their existence fundamentally altered the relationship between humanity and the Emperor. While they were instrumental in achieving his goals, their creation also demonstrated the extent of his willingness to manipulate and control his subjects. This revelation, though not fully understood at the time, planted doubts about the true nature of his rule, doubts that would later be exploited by his enemies. Moreover, the methods used to create the Astartes, steeped in secrecy and moral compromise, set a precedent for how the Imperium would handle other challenges. The success of these warriors reinforced the belief that ends could justify means, a mindset that would come to define the Imperium's approach to governance, science, and warfare. This pragmatism, while effective, also eroded the moral and ethical foundations of human society, leading to a culture increasingly dominated by fear, control, and sacrifice. The galaxy's balance of power was also irrevocably altered. Alien races that had once exploited humanity's weakness now found themselves facing a force capable of not only resisting, but annihilating them. The Astartes waged wars of extermination against xeno species, driving some to extinction and forcing others into hiding. While these campaigns bolstered the Imperium's position, they also deepened the enmity between humanity and its alien neighbors, ensuring that conflict would remain a constant feature of the galactic landscape. In the end, the creation of the Astartes marked the beginning of a new era for the galaxy. They reshaped the Imperium, inspired hope and fear, and imposed order on a fractured galaxy. Yet their existence also carried the weight of the decisions and sacrifices that made them possible, a burden that would cast a long shadow over the Imperium's future. The galaxy was forever changed, both by what the Astartes achieved and by the truths they embodied, truths that would haunt humanity for millennia to come. The creation of the Astartes is steeped in layers of intrigue and mystery, with many unique aspects that continue to captivate and divide the Warhammer 40k fan community. Among the most fascinating elements are the technologies, rituals, and bioengineering techniques used to transform ordinary humans into these extraordinary warriors. Each step of their creation reflects the immense complexity of the process and the ethical compromises it demanded. One of the most debated aspects is the implantation of the gene seed, the foundational technology that defines the Astartes' physiology and capabilities. This genetic material, derived from a source steeped in secrecy, contains the blueprint for their enhanced organs. These include the secondary heart, capable of sustaining life in extreme conditions, and the multi-lung, which allows survival in toxic atmospheres. The transformation process doesn't merely enhance the body, it redefines it. Each organ serves a precise purpose, enabling the Astartes to operate in environments and conditions that would annihilate normal humans. The surgical implantation of these organs is a brutal and dangerous process, often resulting in high mortality rates. The survivors endure unimaginable pain and trauma as their bodies are reshaped from within. This surgical phase is followed by years of grueling physical and mental conditioning, a regime so intense that it strips away most remnants of the subject's original identity. The transformation is not just physical but psychological, forging individuals who are not only capable of extraordinary feats but also entirely devoted to their purpose. Another captivating aspect of their creation lies in the hypno-indoctrination and mental reprogramming used to mold their minds. The Astartes are subjected to intensive neural conditioning, where knowledge, tactics, and unshakable loyalty are imprinted directly into their brains. This process is both a marvel of technology and a chilling example of control. It ensures absolute obedience to their commanders and the Emperor, while suppressing emotions and independent thought that might lead to hesitation or doubt. The ethical implications of this mental reprogramming continue to fuel debates among fans about the cost of creating such unwavering soldiers. The weapons and armor of the Astartes are equally unique, designed to complement their enhanced physiology and battlefield roles. Power armor, for instance, is more than just protection. It acts as an extension of their bodies. Controlled by neural links, it enhances their strength, reflexes, and survivability to almost supernatural levels. Each suit of armor is a masterpiece of engineering, tailored to the individual wearer, and equipped with systems that can monitor and sustain life, even in the direst circumstances. The integration of such advanced technology with a human host represents one of the Imperium's greatest technological achievements. One of the more controversial and lesser-known aspects involves the sourcing of candidates for the transformation. The selection process is ruthless, often targeting populations from war-torn or devastated regions. These candidates are chosen not only for their physical and genetic potential, but also for their ability to endure extreme hardship. This focus on the strong and the broken creates a paradox. The warriors meant to protect humanity are forged from those who have suffered the most under its rule. The philosophical implications of this cycle, where suffering feeds the creation of saviors, are a topic of enduring fascination. The rituals surrounding the Astartes' creation add yet another layer of intrigue. Over time, the scientific processes used to create them have been shrouded in mysticism. What began as a precise and calculated method under the Emperor's direct oversight has evolved into a blend of ritual and superstition, with the exact procedures varying between chapters. This fusion of science and faith reflects the Imperium's broader descent into dogma, where technology is revered but no longer fully understood. These rituals are seen as necessary by those who perform them, further emphasizing the blend of pragmatism and belief that defines the Astartes. A particularly debated topic is the potential for failure within the process. While the Astartes are revered as paragons of genetic and physical perfection, the reality is far more complicated. Not every gene seed implantation succeeds, and not every Astartes reaches the battlefield unscathed. Genetic flaws, physical deformities, and psychological instability are all risks inherent to the process. Some warriors emerge stronger, their flaws adding unique abilities, while others are discarded or hidden away, their existence a stark reminder of the imperfections lurking behind the grandeur of the Astartes. Finally, the secrecy surrounding their origins continues to intrigue fans. The Emperor's unwillingness to share the full details of their creation, even with his closest allies, has led to endless speculation about the true extent of the compromises and sacrifices made. Some argue that the secrecy was a calculated measure to protect the Imperium's image, while others suggest darker truths that remain hidden, even from the Astartes themselves. This veil of mystery ensures that discussions about their origins remain one of the most engaging and controversial aspects of the Warhammer 40k universe. These unique facets of the Astartes' creation highlight the depth and complexity of their origins, raising as many questions as they answer. They reflect the uneasy balance between science and superstition, innovation and tradition, and sacrifice and salvation that defines the Imperium and its greatest warriors. The creation of the Astartes was a monumental undertaking shaped by individuals of remarkable vision, ambition, and complexity. These figures, both heroes and villains, left an indelible mark on the process, their influence defining the successes and failures of the project. Each played a unique role, driven by motivations that were as diverse as they were consequential. Among the most enigmatic contributors was the Chief Apothecary, a figure whose expertise in genetics and physiology was instrumental in refining the transformative processes that created the Astartes. While their name has been lost to the annals of history, their contributions remain undeniable. This individual was a master of experimentation, capable of pushing the boundaries of known science. Yet, their relentless pursuit of perfection often strayed into morally ambiguous territory. The apothecary's willingness to use unwilling test subjects and their controversial methods of harvesting genetic material made them both a visionary and a figure of controversy. Another prominent figure was the High Fabricator of the Mechanicum, whose alliance with the Emperor brought the vast technological resources of Mars to bear on the project. The Fabricator's role went beyond providing advanced machinery and forges. They were instrumental in integrating the intricate augmentations that defined the Astartes. Their skill in blending biological and mechanical systems ensured the warriors could function as living weapons. However, their motivations were not entirely aligned with the Emperor's vision. Obsessed with unlocking the secrets of ancient technologies, the Fabricator's experiments occasionally prioritized discovery over ethical considerations, leading to results that were both extraordinary and deeply flawed. One of the most controversial figures tied to the Astartes' creation was a renegade geneticist who defected from the Mechanicum to work directly under the Emperor's supervision. Known only by their code name, this individual was a prodigy in the field of bioengineering. Their contributions included the development of several key implants used in the Astartes transformation process. Yet, their methods often drew ire even from their peers, as they were known to conduct unregulated experiments that frequently resulted in catastrophic failures. Their brilliance was tempered by an arrogance that ultimately led to their downfall, as their unchecked ambition posed a threat even to the Emperor's carefully laid plans. A darker influence on the process came from a faction of rogue Psykers who were covertly employed to enhance the mental conditioning of the Astartes. These individuals, though indispensable in imbuing the warriors with unshakable loyalty and tactical precision, often pursued their own agendas. Their use of forbidden warp-based techniques to manipulate the minds of recruits introduced an unstable element into the project. While their efforts succeeded in creating soldiers of unparalleled focus and discipline, they also left some Astartes vulnerable to corruption, a flaw that would haunt the Imperium in future conflicts. On the other side of the spectrum, a dedicated biotechnologist from Terra's decaying scientific elite represented the idealistic side of the project. Unlike many of their peers, this individual was deeply concerned with preserving the humanity of the recruits undergoing transformation. They pushed for more ethical methods and often clashed with others over the extreme measures being taken. Though their influence was limited by the overwhelming need for expediency, their contributions ensured that some remnants of compassion remained in the otherwise ruthless process. The adversaries of the project also played a crucial role in shaping its trajectory. Among them was a Xenos overlord who discovered the early stages of the Astartes program and sought to sabotage it. Their relentless pursuit of the Emperor's genetic facilities forced the Imperium to accelerate certain aspects of the program, leading to costly mistakes but also unexpected breakthroughs. This adversary's actions underscored the immense stakes of the project and the lengths to which the Imperium's enemies were willing to go to prevent its success. Lastly, one cannot ignore the shadowy agents who worked to suppress dissent and conceal the darker aspects of the project. Tasked with maintaining secrecy at all costs, these individuals operated in the margins, silencing critics and erasing evidence of failures. Their ruthless efficiency ensured that the Astartes would emerge as symbols of perfection, even as the truth behind their creation was buried beneath layers of deception. These agents embodied the moral compromise at the heart of the project, their actions reflecting the harsh realities of building an empire in a hostile galaxy. Each of these figures, whether ally or adversary, hero or villain, contributed to the creation of the Astartes in profound ways. Their strengths and flaws, their ambitions and fears, all became part of the tapestry of events that led to the genesis of these superhuman warriors. Together, they illuminate the complexity of the process and the sacrifices, both visible and hidden, that defined its outcome. Through their stories, the dark truths behind the Astartes creation come into sharper focus, revealing a legacy as troubled as it is extraordinary. The creation of the Astartes is a subject shrouded in mystery, and even within the extensive lore of the Imperium, numerous unanswered questions and contested theories persist. These unresolved elements fuel debates among scholars and enthusiasts alike, raising doubts about the origins, ethics, and long-term implications of the project. These mysteries are not just remnants of a forgotten past. They actively shape perceptions of the Astartes and the legacy they represent. One of the most enduring questions revolves around the true origins of the genetic material used to create the Astartes. While it is widely accepted that the Emperor engineered this material, its exact source remains speculative. Some theories suggest that it was derived from long-extinct human subspecies or modified strains of humanity recovered during the Age of Strife. Others posit that the Emperor may have utilized genetic samples from Xeno species, integrating their traits to achieve the desired results. This possibility raises troubling implications about the purity of the Astartes and the extent of the compromises made to create them. Another debated topic concerns the immense secrecy surrounding the project. Why did the Emperor choose to conceal so many details, even from his closest allies and advisors? Some believe this secrecy was a precaution against sabotage or betrayal, while others argue it reflects the morally dubious methods employed during the process. There are even suggestions that the Emperor feared the knowledge of these methods might undermine his authority or inspire rebellion among those unwilling to accept the ethical cost of the Astartes creation. The high mortality rates associated with the transformation process also remain a point of contention. While it is clear that the augmentation procedures were fraught with danger, questions persist about whether these rates were an acceptable consequence of the project's ambition or a result of rushed development and incomplete understanding of the genetic modifications involved. Some theorists argue that alternative methods might have been explored if more time had been available, potentially reducing the human cost. The psychological conditioning of the Astartes is another area rife with unanswered questions. While their unshakable loyalty and focus are celebrated as vital traits, it is unclear how much of their humanity is sacrificed to achieve this state. The suppression of independent thought and emotional complexity has led some to speculate that the Astartes are less individuals and more extensions of the Emperor's will. This raises philosophical questions about their status as beings. Are they still human, or have they become something entirely different, defined more by programming than by agency? The exact extent of the Astartes' limitations is another mystery. While they are often portrayed as near-perfect warriors, anomalies and flaws have occasionally surfaced within their ranks. Some suggest that these imperfections are inherent to the genetic manipulation process, while others argue they may be deliberate safeguards introduced by the Emperor to ensure they remain controllable. These speculations invite deeper questions about the Emperor's intentions and whether he foresaw the challenges that would arise from creating such powerful beings. Another persistent enigma is the source of the psychic conditioning that shapes the Astartes' minds. While some theories attribute it to advanced neural programming, others propose the involvement of esoteric or warp-based techniques. This latter possibility is particularly unsettling, as it implies a connection between the Astartes and the very forces they were created to combat. If true, it would cast a shadow over their purity and raise concerns about their susceptibility to corruption. The ethical implications of the Astartes creation also continue to provoke debate. Was the Emperor justified in sacrificing countless lives to achieve his vision? Could there have been a less costly path to unifying humanity? Or was the creation of the Astartes the only viable option in a galaxy rife with existential threats? These questions remain unanswered, as the true extent of the sacrifices made, and whether they were necessary, are obscured by time and the Imperium's relentless propaganda. Perhaps the most tantalizing mystery of all lies in the long-term effects of the Astartes creation. While their role in the Emperor's initial campaigns was undeniable, their continued existence raises concerns about the sustainability of the systems and ideologies they were built to enforce. The gradual decline of the Imperium, coupled with the rigidity of its institutions, suggests that the Astartes may be as much a symptom of humanity's struggles as a solution to them. Were they a temporary measure, intended to fade once their purpose was fulfilled? Or are they an enduring part of the Imperium's fabric, their presence necessary to maintain order in a galaxy defined by chaos? These unresolved questions and theories ensure that the creation of the Astartes remains a deeply intriguing and contentious subject. They reflect the layers of complexity inherent in their origins, as well as the broader struggles of the Imperium to balance ambition with ethics, survival with sacrifice, and truth with propaganda. The lack of definitive answers ensures that debates surrounding their creation will continue, inviting new interpretations and insights into one of the Imperium's greatest achievements and its darkest secrets. The long-term consequences of the creation of the Astartes are profound and multifaceted, shaping the galaxy in ways that continue to unfold millennia after their inception. Their existence, tied to the darkest truths of their origins, holds the potential to both stabilize and unravel the Imperium, depending on how these truths are handled and revealed. The enduring significance of these warriors extends beyond their battlefield prowess, influencing the very fabric of the Imperium and humanity's place in the galaxy. The secrecy surrounding their creation remains one of the most dangerous elements. Should the hidden costs and methods behind the Astartes genesis be fully exposed, it could spark a catastrophic crisis of faith within the Imperium. The people of the Imperium view these warriors as holy figures, blessed instruments of the Emperor's will. Discovering that their origins were mired in moral compromises, ruthless experimentation, and untold human sacrifice would shatter this perception. The resulting disillusionment could destabilize the Imperium's already fragile cohesion, eroding trust in its institutions and leadership. The impact on the Astartes themselves could be equally severe. These warriors are taught to believe in their divine purpose and the infallibility of their creation. Learning the full extent of the sacrifices made to forge them, sacrifices that reduced countless lives to tools in a grand experiment, could fracture their morale and loyalty. For some, it might deepen their resolve, viewing their existence as a necessary burden for humanity's survival. For others, it could lead to existential crises, rebellion, or even their withdrawal from service. Another significant consequence lies in the Imperium's reliance on the Astartes. While they have been instrumental in preserving humanity against myriad threats, their dominance on the battlefield has fostered a dangerous dependency. The Imperium's leaders often prioritize the deployment of Astartes over fostering the resilience of ordinary human armies. This reliance risks creating vulnerabilities. Should the Astartes falter or fail, humanity's ability to defend itself could be catastrophically diminished. Furthermore, as new threats emerge, the limitations of their static genetic design may render them less effective in adapting to novel challenges, leaving humanity exposed. The creation of the Astartes has also set a troubling precedent for how the Imperium approaches scientific progress and ethics. Their success has justified the use of extreme measures in the name of survival, normalizing the idea that ends justify means. This mindset has permeated other aspects of the Imperium, from governance to technological research, fostering a culture where morality is often sacrificed for expediency. Over time, this erosion of ethical boundaries may lead to further atrocities as leaders draw on the lessons of the Astartes' creation to justify ever more extreme actions. The potential for external consequences is equally concerning. Should the galaxy's alien species or rival factions uncover the truths behind the Astartes, it could provide them with a powerful tool for undermining the Imperium. Propaganda campaigns exposing these secrets could sow dissent among human populations and even within the ranks of the Astartes themselves. Moreover, knowledge of the Imperium's willingness to use forbidden sciences and exploit human lives could galvanize alien coalitions or factions opposed to humanity, intensifying their resolve to destroy the Imperium. Despite these risks, the Astartes creation also carries the potential for positive change, depending on how these truths are confronted. Acknowledging and addressing the moral compromises of their origins could lead to reforms within the Imperium, fostering a more transparent and accountable system of governance. If the sacrifices of the past were openly recognized, they might serve as a cautionary tale, inspiring future generations to seek solutions that balance survival with humanity's core values. Central to this monumental undertaking was the Emperor of Mankind, the architect and visionary whose unparalleled intellect and ambition guided every aspect of the project. His mastery of genetic science and unparalleled understanding of human potential made him uniquely suited to conceive and execute this transformation. Acting as both creator and overseer, he ensured that every element of the process served his ultimate goal of safeguarding humanity. Yet, despite his central role, much of his work was carried out in secrecy, shielded even from those closest to him. In the distant future, advancements in genetic science and bioengineering could pave the way for refining or even surpassing the Astartes. Building on the lessons of their creation, the Imperium might develop new methodologies that preserve the benefits of these warriors while mitigating their flaws and ethical costs. However, this would require a willingness to challenge entrenched beliefs and traditions, a difficult task in an Imperium defined by its rigidity and resistance to change. Perhaps the most significant long-term consequence is the enduring legacy of the Astartes as symbols of humanity's resilience and ambition. Regardless of the truths behind their origins, they have come to represent the possibility of triumph against insurmountable odds. This symbolic power has inspired countless individuals, fostering a sense of unity and purpose in a galaxy defined by chaos and despair. Even if the truths of their creation were revealed, this legacy might endure, serving as a reminder of humanity's capacity to rise above its limitations, even in the face of its darkest impulses.